Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another edition of the Opposition Preview. First things first, guys, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification button so you are notified when I next upload. And finally, the international break is done. Premier League football's back, and there's a big one in West London on Saturday, 5:30 kickoff, Chelsea versus Arsenal. Pochettino versus Arteta. It's a tasty one to kick things off after the break. And to talk all things the game, Arsenal, Chelsea, delighted to be joined by AFTV's Lee Judges. Lee, thanks for coming as always, mate. Greatly appreciated. Before we get into the game itself, Chelsea is a rivalry for Arsenal. I know Spurs is the big one, kind of similar for us, but where does Chelsea sit for you? Because from my perspective, like I hate losing to Arsenal more than probably most teams. I know Spurs geographically for you guys is the big one, but in terms of competing for trophies and challenging at the top end of the table and in the latter stages of tournaments, Spurs don't really do that. So where does Chelsea sit as a rivalry for Arsenal?
Well, that's a real good question. Definitely up there. I would say that obviously Tottenham, because it's, like North London derby and everything like that. And then probably Manchester United and then Chelsea, so it's very, very much up there. I think it's a rivalry that doesn't border on the dislike of a Tottenham Chelsea rivalry. Like I know, like Tottenham, like Chelsea don't get on with Tottenham as much. I don't think there is that bitterness towards Chelsea as much as there is from the other's perspective. But it's definitely up there as far as rivals are concerned. And obviously with Chelsea's success over the last few years, has probably ramped it up a bit more than what it always has been. But I've always had a mutual respect for Chelsea, basically because of what they've done with the trophies wise and everything like that. But I would say that the rivalry between Arsenal and Spurs is much bigger than what it is with Chelsea. But that doesn't mean to say that it's not a rivalry, though.
No, 100%. I mean, obviously, Arsenal, it must feel weird from an Arsenal fan to sort of come into games against Chelsea now, being the clear favourites. Over the years, we've kind of it's been kind of dominated by us. With Drogba and Eden Hazard causing all sorts of problems. The 6-0 against Wenger, the Europa League final, all the cup finals and etc. we've played over the years. We kind of tend to have your number, but over the last sort of 18 months, 2 years, you're going for 4 wins in a row against us now. Double last season. We haven't beaten you since I think it was 2-0 at the Emirates and Lukaku and Reece James scored. So I think that's a 22-23 season. Although 21-22 season. So it's been a little bit of a while since you recorded a win. You're back-to-back at the Bridge the last couple of seasons. How do you feel heading into this game? It must be a lot better than you have done in previous years going into Chelsea games.
Without a doubt. Obviously full of confidence. That's not arrogance. It's because of exactly what you said. I see on... I was reading an article today on Sky, and it was saying that if Chelsea are looking for a shock win, what I mean. And I think, wow, that's unbelievable. When like a shock win, what I mean. Like Chelsea and you would never dreamt about saying that a little while ago. Someone told me today, like in the last 7-8 games, Arsenal have not lost in 7 of them, what I mean, against Chelsea, which is quite incredible, really. Of the turnaround. Now, listen, we don't forget it's when the Premiership first come out and everything like that. It was very much Arsenal will always be the power side, and then it definitely changed where we couldn't buy a win for love or money at Chelsea and even at the Emirates. We found it very, very difficult, and that's probably where we want to go now. We're the dominant side, so that is why I think it's important. How can I say this? When Chelsea had their dominance over us, they'd nail it, what I mean? They'd rub it in, with big wins or whatever. Like I remember, obviously the 6-0 drubbing. That's not forgotten. Also, I think do you remember a couple of years ago you won at the Emirates when you was a better side 2-0. Just proved
Europa League as well. Baku, good night.
Europa League, yeah, I do remember that. But in that dominance, there's always been a little FA Cup win along the way from us. But yeah, I think that and that's what I want to do. When Chelsea have been the top dogs of this fixture, they've flexed their muscles and let us made us aware of that fact. Just, you know what I'm saying, like, you know. So now we're the top dogs. I don't mean that cockily. I think we've got better players and we're a better team at the moment. We have to do the same to you. Like, that means going there on Saturday and doing what you've done to us in the past. You know, and that's what I'd be very annoyed if we don't do that. You know, because, for instance, when Tottenham have had a little bit of, when they've been the better side against us, they've never had the dominance where we've like they've won home and away and whatever. Like, well, with Chelsea for a few years, you know, you knew you weren't going to get results against Chelsea. Do you know what I'm saying? Or it was more in hope. Now we've got that advantage over you. I want us to nail it against you because of all the pain and all the suffering that you've given us over the years. That is why it's very, very important that Arsenal go there on Saturday, get the job done, come away and just flex their muscles. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to do that, but that's what I want. And I'll be disappointed with us if we don't do that, because I think that Chelsea, even though they've picked up in the last couple of games, are still in a vulnerable position where I think that you'll probably look at it and think maybe you take a draw now. I've been speaking to a few Chelsea fans, they take a draw. That tells you everything you want to know, you know, because we've been in that position when it's been the other way around. So I want us to rub it in against you boys on Saturday.
Man, last season was enough suffering to last probably a
Yeah.
lifetime. So yeah, hopefully no more suffering. As I said, it's one of the worst fixtures from a Chelsea perspective to lose against Arsenal. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But mate, obviously in terms of start to the season, it's been pretty good, sitting joint top, second on goal difference of Spurs. After 8 games, a massive win against Man City last time out in terms of confidence and kind of shake that monkey off the back. What have you made of the start to the season? Obviously, this game on Saturday is probably going to be your toughest game away from home. Obviously, you've had City, United, Spurs. They've all been at the Emirates. What have you made of the start? Because from me, as a kind of an outsider looking in, Arsenal have started really well. But I think for me, so far, the team looks less pleasing on the eye, but more efficient and starting to be able to show they can grind results out, which hasn't always been the Arsenal way over the years. You know, they go a goal down.
Yeah.
Sort of knew that Arsenal haven't got the mentality to get back in the game. But I'm noticing this season that, do you know what? It's not always playing well, not always pretty football, but you're grinding results out. Would you say that's fair to say that you're a little bit less pleasing on the eye, but you're more efficient?
Yeah, I'd go along with that at this moment in time. We've not been quite at our very, very best, but we've had, as you say, some tough fixtures at home. I also don't think we've had our best team out for all of the, like Thomas Partey's been out for most of the season. Back now, then it was Martinelli out, and then when Martinelli sort of come back last week on a week before against City, we've lost Saka. And then when you take on a team like Manchester City or you know, Chelsea as well, you need your best players. But we went into that game against City, which people like don't really give us the credit for, without our 2 wide players. You know, no Saka, no Martinelli. Now, I know Martinelli come on, but he didn't start in that game and wasn't 100% fit. So we haven't had those players. Now, hopefully that there will be. There's obviously a bit of a doubt on Saka, but if we could get Saka, Jesus, and Martinelli as our front 3, I think that is as good as what we can have, and I think that is what we need. I think once we get that, I think we'll start showing a little bit more fluency in our game. We haven't done that at the moment, but as you say, we've grind out results, and we grind one out against Man City. It wasn't for the neutral a classic, but for us fans and everything, that was what we wanted. You know, I've seen Chelsea and other teams, Man United, play those sort of games out, and you wish you was in those games. You know, do you know what I'm saying? Like, and they weren't classics, but they were what it's all about. And I think that, you know, it's massive beating City, but you've got to back that up with a big game against Chelsea. And you're quite right what you're saying. We've had some difficult away games. You know, Crystal Palace is not easy away from home. Everton's not easy, but you're going up a level now with Chelsea. You're going up to a game. If we can get 3 points from Chelsea, that would be a big thing, backing up after the Man City game. And of course, there is a carrot for us guys as well. Like, is that if we win on Saturday, we go top. So yeah. It's a massive game. And yeah, I think when you're playing at Stamford Bridge at any occasion, it's a tough ask, you know. So I get what you're saying. We haven't been. So it's a funny thing at the moment because people have been a little bit critical of Arsenal not playing that well, and there we are on the same points as Spurs, and everybody's been gloating about how well that they've started. So that gives me a little bit of confidence going into it because it's thinking, well, we haven't been playing that well, but we're still where we are. What happens when we do click, and hopefully once all our players are back. Also, I think that you'll know this more than most because the Champions League is another. It's a tough thing. We play, of course, you on Saturday, and then Tuesday we've got another game. Now, when you think about it, Spurs will play on Monday night, and then the next day we'll have played 2 games. To their 1, and you're playing that Saturday. Our next 3 games are Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. In 7 days you've got 3 very, very tough games. A trip to Seville in that as well. So you have to perhaps, rotate the squad a little bit more than what you would do if you was in the Europa or not even in Europe. So that with that comes a little bit of fluency, I suppose. I don't really know. It's been a long time since we've been in the Champions League to analyse that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, mate, it's not good. It's not good being out of it, as you well know, mate. It's only been. Hopefully, it's only going to be 1 season for us. But it's tough when you see all the games coming up on a Tuesday and Wednesday, and you're just sat at home, not doing anything. But yeah, hopefully, we can get back into it. But mate, Kai Havertz returning to Stamford Bridge this weekend. A lot's been said about his move to Arsenal. 65 million quid. I think we from a Chelsea perspective, we were more than happy with that to almost get our money back on a player who, yes, scored the winning goal in the Champions League final, but overall was very underwhelming for us and didn't deliver what we expected. I think it was a surprise for all Chelsea fans and most football fans, really, that Arsenal paid that money to take him. They're Arteta driving force behind that move. What have you made of Havertz so far this season and his very early start to his Arsenal career? Because I don't know if there's a player who comes under as much scrutiny as he does.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be obviously a lot of scrutiny under him because obviously, he signed for a lot of money and come from Arsenal. I don't think he really done the business at Chelsea, if I'll be really honest. I think, again, like speaking to Chelsea fans, they was never convinced. I've actually heard from Chelsea fans saying that he'd get a bad reception when he comes back over there, which is strange considering he got the Champions League goal. But, I suppose because the move to Arsenal and whatever. I like him. I do think there's a player in it, but there is a player in it, but you can't continually keep saying it. After 5, 6, 7 games, there's a player in there, but it's not happening. He's had his best 2 games, funny enough, for Arsenal against Manchester City, which gives you a little bit of encouragement that he does it against the better sides. The one problem that I've got with him, I don't really if everybody's fit, I don't see him getting into our starting 11. That's only my opinion. I think that if you look in midfield, as I said, I'm looking at Declan Rice, Partey, and Odegaard as our main 3. As I said up front, Martinelli, Jesus, and Saka would be. So where does he play? I quite like him when he's played up front. He created the goal for us against City, but I'm not 100% sure. So I suppose you've got to give him time, but time nowadays, when you're up against a machine like Manchester City, you can't really have. You know what I mean? So the jury's well and truly out for me. But I had actually a few Chelsea fans saying when he was playing they didn't like him. But I'm not got to that stage yet where I dislike him or whatever. But I don't really know if, and I'm probably you probably won't know this as well. And you've had him for 3 years. Is what is his best position? I don't know.
This is the problem. It's a really tricky one when you're talking about a player who's now in his 4th year in the Premier League, and the same discussions are still being had. What's his best position? That's a massive problem. When people look at him at Leverkusen, he was an exciting player. He spent a lot of time off the right, drifting in. He was kind of in that number 10 role as well at times. He's almost one of them who's a bit of a victim of his own versatility, as it were. He's never really nailed down a position. At Chelsea, he was sometimes playing 9, sometimes he played 10, or sometimes he played it off the right or whatever. And he never really excelled in any of those positions. He's a really strange player in terms of there's obvious technical ability there. There's ability as a footballer, but it very rarely ever all comes together and gets anything. You might get a few minutes here and there. You might get sort of a bit of a patch of 3 or 4 games where he does some stuff, and then he kind of reverts the type and doesn't really do anything. I never looked at him as a number 8. I agree with you that I think Arsenal's best midfield in terms of balance wise is Rice and Partey with Odegaard ahead. I like Fabio Vieira as well. I think he's someone that perhaps doesn't get the credit he deserves. I think he's done well when he's played for Arsenal this season. But Havertz is a strange one because, as you say, you can't keep having a conversation about what a player's best position is when they're in their 4th season in the league. So I'm intrigued, not because I want him to do well at Arsenal, but I'm just intrigued to see kind of how it works out, because it's a bit of a player who is a massive enigma. But I mean, if you look at the game itself, how are you expecting Arsenal to approach it? Obviously, Bukayo Saka's fitness is going to be key. I haven't seen too much on whether he's fit or whether he's not fit. Obviously, he wasn't in the England squad. We know Martinelli's obviously should be fit because he came off the bench against City. Where is Thomas Partey available? Does he go in? Do you think Kai Havertz starts? How do you think Arteta is going to set up in this game?
I think it'd be very, very interesting. Obviously, like Thomas Partey's played a couple of games. Not all. He had minutes in the international for Ghana, so that would say that he would be fit and available. Obviously, like Martinelli hadn't gone to Brazil, so he would have obviously like played probably behind closed doors and would have got his fitness back up. I definitely see him starting in this game after he was on the bench and come on at half time against City. Saka's the one. I think if Saka plays, if Saka's fit, and he's got to be 100% fit if he is, I think that, I think that he'll probably, if he is fit, I think he'll play him in this one. I don't think he'll say, "Oh, we're keeping back for Seville." I think that this is the one. But if he's not 100% fit, then I think Kai Havertz probably might play as the front player. That's the only position that I see him getting in. Unless he says, you know what, Thomas Partey's not quite 100% yet, I'm going to ease him back in and give him minutes in there, and that would mean that Havertz would probably play in midfield. But I want us, if everybody's fit and available, I want us to play our strongest team against Chelsea, because it's out of the 3 games coming up. First and foremost, it's the first one, but I also think it's the toughest, and I want us to like, for instance, if we could beat Chelsea and draw in Seville, it wouldn't be the end of the world.
No,
you know what I mean, but looking at the way the league is at the moment, I think we've got to win at Chelsea if we want to be really looking to push on in the title race, So for me, if everybody's fit, I'd like to see that midfield, and that would mean that Havertz would probably be on the bench for this one. But if Saka's not fit, then I'd like to see him play up front, because he's played his best games there, and this is, make no mistake, still a big game for us, and of course for Chelsea it's a massive game. So, and if you're gonna, well, how can I say it? Like, what I mean. Not that he started off his Arsenal career, but get it on the right track, what I mean? Yeah. A couple of goals against Chelsea wouldn't go amiss, right,
Yeah, mate, I'll tell you 2 things I'd love is either a Mudryk winner or a Havertz own goal. Those 2 things, they go down pretty well.
The other way around. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, no,
I know what you exactly what you mean. Right.
Mate, but before I get your thoughts on Chelsea, I wanted to get your thoughts briefly on the goalkeeping situation at Arsenal. Obviously, Ramsdale started the season in goal. David Raya coming on that loan deal with an option to buy, which probably will be made permanent at the end of the season. Are you surprised? Obviously, when a goalkeeper like Raya comes in on that sort of a deal, you kind of know what's going to happen. He's coming in as the number 1. There's not really ever space for 2 number 1s. We've had it before with Cech and Thibaut Courtois over the years. Are you surprised that Arteta's given Ramsdale the boot? What have you made of the situation with Raya and Ramsdale? Because for me, it only looks like going one way, and that's Aaron Ramsdale out the exit door.
Yeah, I have to agree. I don't agree with the decision. If I'll be really honest, I've made that clear. I felt that people say about Ramsdale and all that. I go back to Leeds away last season, Liverpool away. Kept it Tottenham away as well. So 3 tough places to go. Kept clean sheets in 2 of them, and kept us in that game against Liverpool. Yes, he's made mistakes, but so has Raya already this season. I look at it and I think to myself, with Raya coming in, I've got no problem with it. But he's not come in and been wow. Yeah, I get it. Why Raya's in and Ramsdale's not. I don't really see too much of a difference between the 2 of them, if I'll be really honest. if anything at all. So if you're bringing in a goalkeeper, look, I might be proven wrong on this, and Raya might have some sensational games and all that, like, you know. So, but what I've seen so far, I'm looking and I'm thinking, did we really need to change that situation? Like, you know, that's my way of it. But it's been done now. I do see it now as that Raya has been given the number one. Harsh as it is, football is sometimes brutal, and that's how it is. So again, you know, as you quite say about the Havertz one, I think this one also will define Mikel as well, because if Arsenal do get over the line this season, they may look at it and go, do you know what, it was that decision in the goalkeeping area, or it wasn't that decision in the goalkeeping area, you know.
Yeah, sport's tough. Is ruthless at the highest level, and as you said, the gaffer's going to live and die by those decisions. If he thinks that Raya is better for the way that he wants to play and thinks he's a better keeper, you make that decision, you stick with it, and if it goes well, great. If it doesn't go well, you take the flack that comes with it. I think I slightly agree with you as well in terms of a little bit similar to our goalkeeping situation. We're obviously looking for a new keeper. I like Robert Sanchez, but I would never have looked at that as a clear big upgrade on Kepa. I think he's better in certain aspects of the game.
Yeah.
Kepa's better at certain things than Sanchez is, and vice versa. But I wouldn't never have looked at that and thought that's a huge upgrade and that's going to make us so much better. I'm still yet to be convinced that Robert Sanchez is a title-winning goalkeeper, or a goalkeeper that's going to win us big trophies. And I think the same can maybe be said of David Raya. Is he good enough to be a Premier League winning goalkeeper? Is he good enough to go into the latter stage of the Champions League? I guess those questions are there to still be answered. But moving away from Arsenal, I just want to get your thoughts on Chelsea. What have you made of us so far? Obviously, it's been a difficult start. It's been a lot of upheaval since Todd Boehly came in just over a year ago. Pochettino's in charge now. A lot of young players, some exciting players. Things haven't really clicked at the start of the season, but we have come in off the international break with 3 wins on the bounce: Brighton, Fulham and Burnley, scoring a few goals as well, not letting many in like yourselves. What have you made of what Pochettino's doing so far this season? Because I'll be honest, I think I like it, but we should have more points on the board than we do. But I'm also aware it's going to take time.
Yeah.
But that's not an excuse for not picking up results as well.
No, first and foremost, you've got a good manager. That's the first thing that you know. Whether his Spurs connections and that matter or don't matter, and that you know, he knows what he's doing. He will get it right eventually, like if given the time, and then I'm pretty sure Chelsea will give him the time. Bit surprised with the money that Chelsea have spent, and they've spent a hell of a lot of it, and they haven't got 2 areas which I think that they needed to address, and that was obviously the goalkeeping situation. I don't think that with all that money that you spent like that, I think you needed a better goalkeeper than what you've got at the moment. And probably a forward, like a centre forward of, you know, with all that money spent. I think that there's been times when I've watched Chelsea this season, they've looked decent, but they've just, I remember watching them, didn't see all of the game against Bournemouth, totally dominating the game, but never looked like scoring.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you ever, sometimes you have a, you know, as you know, you're Didier Drogba in there or someone like that, you're winning that game 3-0 and you're on to the next one. So I think that Chelsea, if I'll be really honest, have played better than what their results have got. But if you're toothless up front, it doesn't help. You know what I mean? Like now, the boy Jackson looks like he's going to be a player. I've got to say that. I think
he looks a bit of a handful, doesn't he? Like he's got a little bit about him. You can tell he's a bit ragged though, and a bit rough around the edges.
At this moment in time, you can tell that, like, you know. But you can see there's a player. Like a couple of years ago, same with us with Martinelli. He was a little bit rough, but you could see that he was a good player. You know, and you can see that this with Jackson, he's got pace and he's got things there, like, you know. So he's definitely one for the future. I think Chelsea will get better and better as it goes on. This next month or so is going to be a massive test for you guys. I know that you've got all the big boys coming up. A difficult one at Tottenham away. I think you've got
Newcastle as well.
Yeah, I think you've got Manchester United, Man City, Newcastle in that run as well. Like, you know, so some real tough games. But sometimes those tougher games are better to have than the games what you're expected to win. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, you're expected to go and beat Aston Villa. You're expected to go and beat who was the other team you lost to at home?
Nottingham Forest. Lost to both teams. Yeah,
to win those games. And because you don't, the pressure goes on a little bit, like, you know. So, and then what will happen is you get that unexpected win against somebody, and that's the one that kicks you on. I can go back to when you ain't going to like this. When Arsenal were really struggling,
Mate, when you smashed us on Boxing Day.
On Boxing Day. It come up on Boxing Day, you know what I mean?
Would it be fair to say that might have kept Mikel in the job?
I do believe it did, because I think if we'd have lost that game, we'd have dropped into the bottom three, But we won that game, and then that took us on a run and took us to so one of those big games coming up, you need, and this is where I fear this game now, because this is a good game for Chelsea. If Chelsea beat us, fantastic. If you lose this game, people will go, oh, well, it's expected. But if you're playing a Forest or Brentford, say, this weekend, and you lost to them, then there'll be a little bit more of a crisis put to it than that. So I think Chelsea would be fine this season. I actually thought they'd start off a little bit better than what they did when I looked at their run of fixtures. That I thought that they'd be a little bit better. But I see signs of Chelsea coming better. Like people say, oh, Brentford and Fulham, or not Brentford and Fulham, Burnley and Fulham. You still got to beat those teams, you know what I mean? Like, listen, I really hope that Arsenal beat you, and then you get your mojo up when you go to White Hart Lane in about 10 days' time. Like.
Yeah, mate. Well, I hope so. Do you know what it is though? Like, I look at it and I think, like, as you say, runs like this for me, it's gonna like make or break this team. We're 7 points off Champions League spaces at the moment. Like, for me, it's absolutely critical that when we come through this run of fixtures, that we are no further behind than 7. If it starts becoming 12 or 15 points off those Champions League places, we can just forget about it, and then that might cause problems for next season in terms of maybe trying to get players. I know we've managed to get players, but you want Champions League as quickly as possible. The league's so competitive now. Aston Villa's, Newcastle's, Brighton's, etc., going for those places. Spurs resurgent as well, unfortunately. Like, you can't afford to be dropping too many points. 7 points off after 8 games already. Like that, after this run, it's got to be no more than that. Otherwise, I think even in sort of end of October, November, we can maybe forget Champions League qualification. But I think for me, like, I'll worry about Arsenal, I guess, would be going forward as well. I think Saka and Martinelli up against the fullbacks. Reece James is available again. I wouldn't throw him back in personally, just because he's not played any football since the first game of the season. Malagusto is more than capable. He's shown he can stand in and do well. Colwell at left back will probably play there. He's done well, but again, up against Martinelli, it's going to be a tough test. Martinelli and Saka, I think, are going to be key in there, and then that midfield battle as well. I think both teams defensively are pretty sound. I think you've let in 6 this season. We've let in 7 defensively. With the sides are both pretty good. Going forward, you're dangerous. We can be dangerous, but it just depends if we've got our shooting boots on or not, and that's always the big question. If we got our shooting boots on like we did against Burnley, I fancy us to create a few chances and stick a couple away. But if we don't, then it could well be a long afternoon. Just to round out, mate, what players from a Chelsea perspective kind of worry you a little bit? Not like sort of you're scared or whatever, but what ones do you think we need to be a little bit wary? I mean, Cole Palmer started very well. Sterling probably will start with his experience. We've got Enzo and Caicedo in that midfield. That's going to be fascinating up against Rice, Partey potentially as well, that matchup. But I mean, what players kind of do you look at Chelsea and think we need to be a little bit careful because they could cause problems?
Well, that midfield does, I mean, I think the midfield is going to be, that's where the game's going to be won on loss, because I do think, I think Gallagher will probably play as well. So that's a decent, very, very decent midfield if on paper, it's not quite clicked yet, but Caicedo, I'm a person that rates him very, very highly. I was very, very impressed with him when he was at Brighton.
A couple of bids rejected in January.
I wanted him. I wanted him at Arsenal. Very, very disappointed when he did go to Chelsea, But if there was a choice between Rice and Caicedo, I suppose Rice was the one. But and the reason that it is the one with Rice over Caicedo is because I think Rice can play 2 positions. He can play the box to box, and he can play the holding, where I think Caicedo is really more suited to just the holding midfield player. But so I think that's going to be an interesting matchup there. Whoever wins that midfield battle. But listen, I think Sterling's got a point to prove. I think he's been treated like rubbish by England manager. When you look at it, I get this when this manager turns around and says, why are you playing Maguire and you're playing Phillips? Well, they've never let England down. I don't think Sterling's ever let England down when he's played. I get it that we've got maybe
there's a lot of options, but
more options in the wide areas.
He's carried Southgate a lot of times, particularly in last Euros. He's been a go-to guy, and he's just kind of been discarded. I know there's options there, but surely Look, from a Chelsea perspective, I don't mind, because it means that he's not going away, he's not travelling, he's not playing. So from that perspective, from a selfish point of view,
Yes,
it's
I'm
good
with
for
you.
us. But I do find it strange that a player like Raheem Sterling isn't in an England squad as part of their best attackers. But I think Mudryk can cause potential issues as well.
Yes, I think without a doubt.
He's coming into a little bit of form as well.
Yeah.
But again, I guess it's just, have we got enough in terms of, can Nicholas Jackson get a goal or two? Can he put the chances away? I don't think you'll give us a few chances, but I don't think we're going to get that many. I think it'll be a tight game. I think we're looking at one goal either way. But I mean, last thing, mate, score prediction. What are you thinking? I presume you're going to back Arsenal, your boys.
I'm backing Arsenal to win.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, when you look at those three up front, that's got pace. I think, like Mudryk, Sterling and Jackson all got pace and all that. The one thing I don't think that they have is power. I mean, to go along with that. So that's why I think that hopefully we'll keep you at bay from that thing. I've gone for Arsenal to win 2-0, but I think it'd be a very, very tight 2-0, maybe 1-0 until the latter stages or something like that. That's what I'm going of. Like, one goal wouldn't either way. Wouldn't surprise me. I think the first 20 minutes, Charlie, going to be like vital. We've got to, we withstand that if we get that, and then we start getting our foot on the ball and playing and start dominating in that sense, it'd be there. But I'm expecting a real tough game. I'm being honest. I think it's going to be a really, really exciting game, and may the best team win.
No, absolutely. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people expect it to be. I think the way some people are going on, they expect it to be an Arsenal walkover. I'm not saying I'm not expecting us to win. I'm just going to back us to win, because I always will. But I don't expect it to be a walkover. It'll be close. I've got a bit of a funny thing. I do kind of fancy us. I'm going to go 2-1, but I equally wouldn't be surprised if you won or if it ended up as a draw. So all options are on the table. But let's hope for a Chelsea win. Can't allow you boys to make it 4 in a row against us and start maybe trying to turn the tide. But Lee, thanks so much for your time, mate. It's greatly appreciated. Generous as always, mate. If people, for whatever reason, don't know where you are, don't know what you do, where can they go to check out more of your stuff?
They can check me out on Lee Judges TV, or obviously like on AFTV, and all socials as Lee Mark Judges.
Yeah, guys, perfect. Make sure you check all that out. It'll be linked in the description. Channel will be tagged in the title. Just give it a click. Go and subscribe to Lee. Show him some love. Guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. As always, smash a like. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. And I'll catch you again soon.